Yes, Todd.
Wait. Before you hang up for the episode,
Okay.
before you go away, because I told you I brought a little bit of research and it ties into this conversation,
Okay.
and I think you'll enjoy it because
You've been talking this entire time without sharing any of your knowledge with us. Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I have shared none of my knowledge. I am selfish in my knowledge keeping.
All right.
Let me share this with you.
Okay.
Me,
You're actually going to share something?
I am.
Okay.
So you can be supercharged.
Share with us, Kimosabi.
Comics and comic art category breaks records as superhero culture stays strong. Comics and comic art had a spectacular year. This is brand new. I just got this today.
Okay.
Heritage Auctions sets a new record with its comics and comic art category department. Registered sales of more than $79.3 million in 2019. It's up more than $20 million from 2018, which also saw a record-setting total of $58.5 million. Our bidder base of collectors, both seasoned and new, has been expanding at a rate beyond our most optimistic expectations. Comic books, comic art, and related memorabilia have never been more popular. Okay, now I'm just going to scroll down. They think, so here's the interesting thing, the two explanations they have. They think thanks to movies, TV shows, and games inspired by Marvel, DC, and other comic book publishers, comic characters enjoying unprecedented international appeal among all age groups, demographics, especially millennials and younger. They're not buying comics, they're buying comic art, and they're collecting. But here's the interesting thing. Another explanation could be that the baby boomer generation has hit critical mass of nostalgia and disposable income, a position that handily explains a similar rise in popularity enjoyed by retro and vintage science fiction art. That's from Forbes. Whatever the answer, more and more collectors, old and new, are getting the itch to buy comics. Now, they're not buying new comics, they're buying and they're investing in the valuable original art and the collectible things. And this is a perfect example of what I've been talking about forever. They hit it towards the baby boomer generation, hitting critical mass of nostalgia and disposable income, which is probably true. But it also, I mean, we're not baby boomers and we're not millennials or younger.
Right.
We're that Gen X, Gen Y, and we're in the same position where I have more money now. I'm not loaded, but I've got more money now than I did in my 20s for sure. And I have, if I see something and it's something for sale and it's like $1,000 and I have it to spend and I find value in it, I'll drop it. I'll purchase it. And that is, I think here's the problem with comics is when I can look at an original piece of art or a slab book and say, man, that costs $500 or that costs $1,000. Man, I really want it. Can I get it? I don't really know. Should I do it? And I make that decision. But then when I go to a comic shop and I see a $3.95 comic and I'm like, that's trash, I'll never pick it up.
Right.
Rather, it's easier for me to spend $500, $1,000, $2,000 on something that has a passion and a love and true support, fan support behind it, as opposed to something that doesn't.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you remember exactly when you stopped buying weekly comics and started buying original art, trade paperbacks, hardcover graphic novel collections, and anything but monthly comics?
It was a slow burn because I'm a Wednesday's child. I went to the comic shop every day, hell or high water, most of my life. It was up until 2009, I will say. And that was less. It was
way longer than I did.
Yeah, I was going up to 2009, maybe 2008, 2009, and that was only because the reason I stopped was only because I was starting to put together my own businesses, and I was dead broke, and I was struggling. Like I was paying my rent and all that kind of stuff, but I was still working really hard, and just kind of every penny that I earned, I was trying to put back into my businesses, and I didn't start really getting back into the books until 2011, which is when I started working at Marvel.
Right.
So then that was really not. I can't even, to be completely fair, I can't even say that I wasn't buying the books at that point. I was just getting stacks of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that got me back into it, and that's when I kind of saw that there was still some really good art out there, and there's some really good stories, and that got me back into it. But even before 2009, I was buying less comics and more graphic novels. I've never been totally a wait for the trade guy. Like if I see a book, I'm gonna get the book and the trade. But it kind of petered out for a few years, and then actually working at Marvel got me back into it. But then by the time I left, which was only 2 years, like I was done. Like I was absolutely out, and it was that was, and I was like that was, and then there was a period of maybe 2 or 3 years again where I didn't go to I mean, I wouldn't go to the comic shop. I was buying previews.
Right.
I never stopped
Same
buying
thing here. Same here.
I never stopped buying previews. So, if I went to the comic shop, I always left with the new previews. So I always purchased something. But for a good 2 years, I didn't purchase any books. I just only bought previews. And I was like, I'm looking through stuff, trying to find stuff that I want. And I'd find something here or there, but then I'd forget about it, or it never came out, or it wasn't as good when it came out, blah, blah. And then it was really only like last year before, where I started buying it. Like I said, okay, I started looking at the auction stuff, really just to get inspired, kind of like I was looking at the auction stuff the same way I was looking at previews, really.
Yeah.
But then I started seeing stuff that I was like, holy crap. Like, the minute you see a page from like 1990, whatever nostalgia area, when you're like, oh my God, I love that guy. I love that girl. I love that art. I love that, whatever it is. Like once you see that object and you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe somebody is selling that thing. Yeah. Then all of a sudden it kicks in and you're like, you know what? I got to see if I can get it.
Now I've had a lot of people surprised. They'll come into the store, and I've had this question asked of me a lot. They'll say, "Wow, you have a comic book store. You must have a really big collection of comics." I said, "Yeah, I know. You're looking at them. That's what the store is. This is my collection of comics."
Yeah.
Like, really? I says, "Yeah." I said, I stopped buying single issue comics years and years ago when I started buying original art. And the reason is you could have this issue and it's fantastic. It's super rare and it's worth $20, $30, $40. That's great. But to have an original page of art from that book, that's something that is just inconceivably cool, in the fact that you have a one of a kind, nobody else in the world has it. And it doesn't matter if it's a crappy book, or if it's a story you enjoyed, or from a comic you liked, or an artist you like. It's so valuable to you than it is to anybody else. And I stopped buying monthly comics a long time ago, and my collecting art kind of shifted around 2011 when I started focusing on certain things. Like when I would go get an original sketch, it would be one of those three categories. It would either be Batgirl, who's my favorite character, it would be one of my characters, or it would be the artist's characters. So I switched my focus. Prior to that, I was just randomly buying whatever I thought looked cool and I liked. But when it came to original art, I looked for splash pages or half splash pages because I love those. And so, I mean, I had a focus, but I don't buy comics anymore. There's some that I if I'm going to buy a comic nowadays, it's going to be in either a hardcover collected edition, because that's what I'd like to put on my shelf and keep. So I don't buy comics anymore to buy comics.
I'll tell you, this also ties in, everything we're talking about ties into the other problem that modern comics have. The reason why these auctions are going so well, and the auctions are selling so good. And I don't know if you caught those numbers. Just as a comparison, the comic industry last year made $100 million a year for the American comics, maybe a little less. Heritage by itself is about that, and it's probably more profitable. So that should tell you, but the deal is, and why you also know why this is a big problem for the comic industry, is that nothing on any of these auction sites has anything to do with anything in the last 10 years.
Right.
None of it. And it's because the books they're putting out now, the content they're putting out now, is one, it's not memorable, and two, there isn't a big enough audience that's going to remember it 25 years from now to give a shit about it. Like Hickman's X-Men run might be phenomenal, but there's not a big enough audience anymore that's going to recognize those pages in 30 years.
And that's also if the pages even exist. Some of that may be digital art, and you can't buy it.
That's right. But you know what? You put up a McFarlane Spider-Man, and there's a million people out there right now, at least a million, if not more, that are like, I remember that book.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And that is why that work. If you ask me personally, and I'm not the only one. This is not a way out there statement. If you have $1,000 and you can either go to the comic shop and buy $1,000 worth of comics, or you can buy one piece of original art, I'm buying that original piece of art because it's more of an investment. It's more of you're going to get more enjoyment out of it. It's going to bring you more joy, and it's something that your kids, one day could sell or give away or pass on to their kids.
Well, that's what I'm
secretly do that with comics.
That's what I'm secretly trying to do to all my comic book collectors that come into my store and buy comics, is to convert them to buying original art, because there's no store in this town that sells original art but me. I have original pages, I have original sketches, I have original art from Hero and other stuff, but nobody else sells that stuff. And I want to share with people the stuff that they never, ever, ever see if they just go into a regular comic book store. Mm-hmm. I want to be special in that way. And like I've said, once I can start selling original art, especially my own, it's an unlimited resource because I can continue to make original art. And I have sold some original art in the store. I've sold some stuff of my own. I've also sold some other pieces of my collection, which is cool. I like sharing that stuff with people. But that's the thing that will make my store different and stand out and be different from others.
Yep.
So, well, Todd, I appreciate you sharing this little gem with us.
Pretty interesting, right? It's pretty interesting. Like I think it's just such a stark contrast with all this bitching that Marvel and DC and all these comic people are doing about, the comic industry is fine, but we ran out of cash in less than 2 weeks, and it wasn't us, it was the coronavirus. Meanwhile, here's an article from the same industry, just a different sales side of the industry, and it's doubled. It's grown $20 million more this year. Last year was a record. 2019 was a record. 2018 was a record. Do you know what I mean? Like they're going gangbusters. And you can even see like when there's an artwork up there that's hit auction a few times, and you look at the histories, these pieces are going up in value, up in value, up in value. And it's not, the people who love comics are still out there. They're just not stupid enough to buy your crappy, untalented book. It's just not going to happen.
Hey everybody, thanks a lot for checking out our video. If you like this content, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and join us again. We live stream Monday, Wednesday, and Friday starting at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. We usually go for about an hour. We do drawing, we talk about comics, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Make sure you leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Thumbs up, thumbs down either way, and we'll catch you all next time.